those scuffles which are still happening in New York. Let's go to our North America correspondent Lisa Miller from Washington. Lisa, good morning. It's been a fairly restive day on Manhattan streets.
Yes, and it just depends who you talk to really get a sense of what's going on there. There were suggestions over the last few days that they could expect a crowd of up to 10,000. They think perhaps it's more like several hundred. The police chief just spoke before and said although we're seeing these scenes of scuffles and skirmishes, and it does look at times to be violent between the police and the protesters, that at the end of the day everyone got to work on Wall Street. So the workers were happy and the protesters should be happy because they were able to get their message across as well. So the police were certainly painting it as a win-win, Michael.
And what prompted this particular protest? Why did the Occupy movement choose this particular day to stage this sort of activity?
No, well, they're calling it the Day of Action because it's 2 months after they first began in New York. Wall Street was that first protest, and then it spread throughout the country and in Australia and other countries around the world. And in fact, today they are protesting in places like Los Angeles and Denver and here in Washington as well. But the message has always stayed the same, that argument against wealth inequality. Let's have a listen to some of the protesters.
We go into the Middle East, be like, hey, we're going to spread democracy, and here we are, our government's suppressing democracy. It's just like, how much hypocritical can that get?
We rattled their cage, and now they're cracking down. We just got to show them that we're going to keep going on. The harder they push us, we're not going to break. We'll bend, but we won't break.
Some of the very animated protesters there, Lisa, on the streets of New York. Now, as we speak to you, we can show our viewers some live pictures from New York on the latest state of play there. Not much activity, lots of people milling about there, obviously. What's the situation regarding the epicentre of the Occupy movement? Of course, that is Zuccotti Park. Are police upholding that earlier order that protesters can certainly go there, but they can't pitch tents and the like?
That seems to be the indication today, although there have been some barricades pushed down around the place, but the police are allowing them into Zuccotti Park. They shut down Broadway, the main thoroughfare, because there was just so much traffic problems, but they'd set up checkpoints for people to get into Wall Street to go to work, because one of the points of today, Michael, was to shut down Wall Street, and there was some celebration going on amongst the crowd, thinking that they'd managed to delay the opening bell of the New York Stock Exchange, but that in fact did not happen, and the money kept turning over on Wall Street, so they weren't able to shut that down. Here in DC, they're planning a march across one of the key bridges, and there's a bit of concern that there's going to be traffic chaos. There always is anyway at peak time in Washington, so it could be even a little worse this afternoon. But it's cold and it's rainy, both in Washington and in New York, so that may have taken an edge perhaps off some of the passions.
We'll wait and see. Lisa Miller in Washington, stay warm. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.